Hello, my name is Lindy Cowling and welcome to my channel. My email is info@lindycowling.co.uk for those that are interested in contacting me for a session, for an appointment. If you do email, you will get an automated response, but I shall get back to you. I will get back to you as soon as I can. So the title of this short video that I was inspired to talk about today is Perception, Projection, Reflection. Perception, projection, reflection. It came to me quite strongly over the last few days, both through my own experience, but through seeing it within others, that the experiences that we have in this world are all tied up with our perception of those experiences. So, for example, somebody could get knocked down by a car and have their leg broken, and that person, let's say it's a man, this man could get knocked down by a car and have his leg broken, and he could feel like that was terribly bad luck, that he was being punished, that the world was against him, and that would be his perception. Somebody else could get knocked down by the same car and have their leg broken and think, my God, that was just so lucky that I wasn't killed. Actually, that's given me some time off work to recover, to focus on what's really important, to focus on what's happening in my life, to take some time out. It's given me that opportunity. You see what I mean? It's a really basic example I'm giving here, but it's two different perceptions of the same event. Now, what governs, in a way, different people's perceptions of the same event would be multiple factors. You know, their personality, the personality of the people involved, their upbringing, nature versus nurture, their life experiences, you know, very much their state of health at the time, their state of mind at the time, what was happening in their life at the time, their belief systems, so many different things. And so this is what a perception is. It's how you perceive something. So you can't really say in either case that either of those people were wrong. The person who thinks the world is against them, they were knocked down, you know, and looks at it that way. And you can't say the person that took the perspective, they were lucky they weren't killed, it was a gift, you know, they're just different perceptions of the exact same event, but with multiple factors involved in how they perceive it. And it really came to me strongly over the last 48 hours how not only vital and imperative, but how perception forms our whole lives. So it's not just other people's belief systems and other people's judgments, but it's also how we perceive other people's actions, or how we perceive our actions, but also how we perceive our world. And this is why I'm saying it's quite vital, because you can have, again, two people going through identical life experiences and both perceive them in a totally different way. So one of the two would be more positive in their outlook, you know, more positive in their being, and the other one perceiving it exact same circumstances in a different way. Like I say, there's no right or wrong. It's just, I'm just giving an illustration of perception, how things are perceived. But where it's really really interesting is that people can go a whole life perceiving things a certain way, and that in a way is their inner universe, their inner landscape. But of course it affects everything, because their inner landscape is a certain way, it affects their attitude, and then therefore their energy, and therefore their vibration, you know, all the way across the board, like it ripples out, that ripple effect right the way across. So this is where I find it really fascinating, that it isn't really the experiences that we have in life, it's how we are perceiving them. Because how we perceive them is how it affects us. Let's go back to the simple example again. The man that gets knocked down by the car and breaks his leg, who takes it all in a very bad way, like he's being victimized, punished. You know, everybody is against him. Just simple example. Another person knocked down by a car, who perceives it as they were very lucky not to have been killed. They've been given a second chance. It's given them a chance to take time out, chance to reassess their life. You know, it's the same event, but you can go a whole lifetime with certain perceptions. And again, there's no right and there's no wrong here, but it does affect what kind of life experience you're going to have, because, like I say, the identical experiences could be happening to the two people at the same time, but there is going to be a very different take on that, depending on their energy field, again, the way they've been brought up, nature versus nurture, their belief systems, what they've been programmed with, their life experiences. All of those things are vital, really, to, I'm not going to say the quality of the experience they have, no, that would be wrong, vital to the actual experience itself, their perception of the events, their perception of the experience. And the perception of the experience and the events obviously has a huge effect upon themselves and everybody else in their life. It ripples out like ripples on in a pool of water. So really, this really resonated with me over the last few days. And if we start with perception, then let's go on to projection. So if you've got these two really easy examples, simple examples that we're using there, and with their different perceptions of the same event, then they will project towards others in their life based on their own perceptions. So again, let's make it simple, so that the guy that gets hit by the car, that feels like he's been a victim, that the world is against him, that it's a big conspiracy, whatever, and then his mother comes to visit him, and there are certain things perhaps his mother says, and those things she says because of her perceptions and the way she's wired and her programming and her belief systems, and she might say things in a way in all innocence, but certain things she says, the man with the broken leg that was hit by the car would perceive as adding to that victim consciousness, as adding to that attack, as adding to that blame. Like, she blames me because I wasn't looking where I was going and got hit by that car. she thinks I'm worthless, stupid, all coming from the man. This is simple projection explained. He's straight away attributed that to his mother because of his perception. Now, I'm not saying that sometimes, for example, his mother isn't deliberately or consciously or sometimes subconsciously inflicting things. I'm using this as a simple example of projection, what projection is. And again, let's say the other one was a woman that was hit by a car. Nothing to do with male and female, just keeping it simple. With a broken leg, in hospital with a broken leg, and her mother comes to visit. And perhaps the mother uses the same words as the mother used with the guy, but this woman, because she feels, vibrates, perceives in a different way, to keep it simple, in a positive way, and feels that everything, there's all synchronicity, everything happens for a reason, for a purpose, how lucky she was, look what it's drawn her attention to. The same words said by the mother she won't perceive in the same way, because she doesn't perceive in that way. She's not perceiving it's a conspiracy theory or she's under attack. So how we project onto other people again is massive, because we can go a whole lifetime making the assumption based on our perception and our projection on what somebody is thinking and feeling about us, thinking and saying about us. We can perceive and project all of our own stuff onto someone else, which is really our own judgment, maybe self-judgment, maybe even judgment of the other person, who may not have actually done anything, based on our own perceptions and our own projections. We've projected that all on there and attributed that to that person, when in fact, the only thing it is to do with that person is that perhaps they were the player on the stage with you at that time, or in play, and they maybe reflected, rather like a mirror, reflected back some of this junk, reflected back some of these perceptions, reflected back maybe some of these behaviors, reflected back some of these thoughts, and it's all tied up. It's all tied up. You know, this is not simple mirroring when a person will mirror someone else, you know, and they will mirror them in ways that kind of match. You can see that sometimes with couples or very close family members, how they will cross their legs at the same time, or they'll be sitting the same way. They're like bookends. You know, they finish each other's sentences, they move in the same way, or they will be mirroring each other in words and language. Sometimes you can get the opposite to that, you know, the opposite polarity to that, mirroring it in a different way, or same kind of theme mirrored. This is not quite the same as that, but it's, you know, it's all kind of in the same melting pot. But I thought it was very, very worth talking about and worth saying, because how we perceive most definitely has a huge impact on how we experience life. Not our life experiences, but how we experience and perceive those experiences, how we experience life. And our perception is linked in with how we project our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, our emotion onto those around us. That would be family, friends, work colleagues. I mean, there's a huge ripple effect right the way across, because that's our own personal filters Our perception is our own personal filter on the world. It's our 3D, 4D, 5D and upwards D glasses that we wear. It's how we perceive it. Or if you're perceiving through the heart, you perceive through the eyes of the heart, a different filter, a different perception. But everyone, whether they perceive mostly through the heart or not, are still in embodiment as human beings, and perception, projection, and reflection, people reflecting it back at them, is part of the human experience. When I say reflecting it back at them, so say for example the guy with the busted leg in hospital, hit by the car, his mother comes to visit, she says something and he perceives that in a certain way, so then he projects his perception, his way he thinks she's coming across back to her. She senses maybe some aggression, some hostility in him. It kind of, in a way, you could say it triggers her, but she reflects back that vibration, that attitude, that perception. 9 times out of 10 it plays that way, because unless she's very aware of her own perceptions and own projections and own reflections, a knee-jerk response in 3D, the 3D paradigm, and even 4D, and even again 5D, still the embodiment in the human vessel. A knee-jerk reaction is to respond back on that vibration, unless you've done a monumental amount of work on yourself, you're very self-aware, and just do not, ever have a knee-jerk reaction to somebody's response. Do I know anyone that doesn't react like that? I'm afraid I don't. I'm sure there are some human beings on the planet that are at a stage where perhaps they're so self-aware and done so much stuff on themselves that they remain in a place where they can not find things too dramatic. I don't personally know of any. I mean, I could, a few examples sprung to mind that I've seen through the media and through YouTube, but these may be people that we only see them when they are projecting in a certain way, really wired into their heart. We don't see them when they're using the restroom. We don't see them when they're going to the store, when they're being pushed and shoved. We don't see them if they're sitting in a traffic jam. The point that I'm making here is this is the human embodiment, and I don't know anybody personally that's in a human experience that does not have emotional reactions. This is part and parcel of why we're here. Not to be ruled by our pain bodies and emotional bodies, but it is part of how we learn, part of the learning experience. The last video I brought out, salad for the rolls, how bland and dry those rolls would be, all roles of human interaction, if we weren't learning through expression of emotion, expression of feeling. Nobody gets into the portal of the heart. Nobody gets to their elevation of 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, keep going up. Elevation of the frequency, the expression of consciousness they are, without feeling. This is something I've been saying more 2 or 3 years now. At talks, at events I do, at seminars, long before I came out on YouTube, the way to the expression of consciousness that you are is felt. It has to be felt, and it has to be felt through the heart. So I hope it's given anyone watching this, you know, food for thought. It's something I'd never thought about, because we kind of run most of our lives and our human experience mostly on automatic pilot. That will be the 90 to 95% that your subconscious or unconscious mind does. But you see, when you actually sit back and then think about this and then look at it differently, well, of course that starts the process of changing your perception. And as I've said, the perception, your perception, our perception, my perception, is everything. Not only flavors our experience here, you know, on this journey, but it's right at the heart of it. On that note, I will love you and leave you. And until we meet again, I have multiple videos that I want to bring out, but it's just the time involved. So again, I just pick and choose those that I'm most inspired to talk about at the time. Thank you very much for watching, and I will hope to see you again soon. Thank you. Bye bye.